So, Marcelle, you joined Level Up back in October 2024, so about 15 months ago now. What was life like for you prior to joining?
So I guess the reason I joined Level Up was because I kind of knew what I needed to be doing, but I wasn't really holding myself accountable. So I knew I should be kind of doing my steps every day. I knew I should be focusing on good quality food, etc. And I would probably do it for a bit of a period of time. And then once I started to see some results, I would almost then slip back out of it because I didn't have anyone there holding me to account. And I think that was probably the initial reason I joined. But kind of since I've joined, I've reflected and actually there was more reasons behind joining. I think it was that I'd had years and years of a negative relationship with food, probably since I was about 12 years old. And although that had improved, I think that was still a part of the problems that I was having because I think I would almost think because I had a better relationship with food, I didn't then want to feel like I was restricting myself, or I would use that as an excuse not to hold myself accountable with tracking because I thought it would lead me back into unhealthy habits. But that was just excuses that I was making. And so I think now looking back, I've realized that on the surface, it was that I was feeling a bit unhappy in my body. I felt like I didn't feel comfortable in my own skin. I was not really recognizing what I saw in the mirror because I had put on some weight. I was probably the biggest I'd ever been. But I think deep down, it was all of that wider stuff that was playing into it that I just didn't really have at the forefront of my mind. I thought it was all just aesthetics, the visual thing that I wanted to lose a few kg, put on a bit of muscle, grow a bum, but actually it was much more than that.
And before joining, you'd tried other things, you'd like had your own experiences elsewhere. Just talk us through what you had done before joining.
So yeah, when I first spoke to you, it was probably in the April sort of time, and I didn't join at the time. I decided to get a PT. I thought I wanted to focus on certain like movements in the gym that I thought I would benefit more from having an in-person PT there to help me. And when I had that initial conversation with the PT, he kind of said, he would give me a workout plan, he would help me with nutrition, all of those things outside of that one PT session a week. But that then didn't materialize. So whilst I did make some progress in the kind of 4 or 5 months I was with the PT, it was mainly due to what I was doing outside of that. So I think that April time when I contacted you was a bit of a turning point for me because I felt so unhappy. I came back from a holiday and I hated every photo of myself. I just felt like I just didn't, as I said, didn't recognize myself. So I did change a lot of things off the back of that, but that was stuff I was doing. It wasn't anything that I was getting from the money I was paying for that PT, apart from that 1 hour session. And yes, it did help me with things like my squats because it was great having someone there to kind of, support me on that. But it was really all the work was being done outside of what I was paying for. It was things that I'd set myself, like I'd set myself a step goal, I'd set myself a nutrition targets and protein targets, etc. And then I'd almost created myself a bit of a plan in the gym. But again, I think I wasn't really pushing myself with that. I would stick to the exercises that I knew I liked. I wouldn't push myself to kind of work to failure. I wouldn't push myself to kind of, progressively overload what I was doing. I was just staying comfortable, really. So, whilst I did make a bit of progress, I lost about 3 kg. I then kind of went easy on myself. I then, as I said, wasn't holding myself accountable. So, that was when I thought, right, actually, what I should have done is join Level Up 6 months ago. I kept seeing your posts of like people's progress, and I thought, like, that could be me. There's no reason why that couldn't be me. So I then kind of took the plunge and decided to join because I just felt like I needed to do something different. And although it did fall outside my comfort zone, I thought, well, I need to get outside of my comfort zone for me to change my life.
100%. And speaking of it could be different and that could be you, like what have you actually achieved in the past 15, 16 months?
So since joining, I think the first 6 months we focused a lot on kind of fat loss. So I lost 6 kg of body fat, and like for me, because I'm quite petite, that was a huge change. Like I looked completely different. Strangers in the gym would come up to me and comment about how hard I was working, how much different I looked, like how much stronger I looked. And so for me, that like to achieve that in 6 months was huge. I never thought I would make progress that quickly. And then following on from that 6 months, I wanted to then focus on building muscle. So we kind of regularly increased my calories. I put on probably about 2 to 3 kilograms of probably what's mainly muscle, looking at my photos. And I think I just look and feel completely different. I think the biggest change for me has been that my confidence has gone through the roof. I feel healthy, I feel happy. I know that I've completely changed my life. I feel like I've set myself up to live a longer and happier life, which for me was definitely something in the back of my mind. I was kind of thinking before joining Level Up that if I carried on this way, into my 60s, 70s, whatever it might be, I would be unhealthy. And now I know that I've got habits that I'll keep for life. And it's a really great position to be in, knowing that I have literally changed my life and I've got that blueprint that I can now continue to follow.
And what has this all enabled you to do? Not just in the gym, but like outside of the gym. Just give us some more examples of how life looks different for you.
I think I've just got such healthy habits. So it's funny actually, last over the last couple of weeks, like me and my partner have like really not been sleeping well. And a couple of times I've got up in the morning, like gone and done my workout. He stayed in bed and he's kind of said to me, I just don't know how you're doing it. I don't know how you're so motivated. And like I was reflecting on it, and actually it's not even motivation. It's just that these things come naturally to me now. It's part of my routine, it's part of who I am. So I don't even need to think about going to the gym or doing my steps or hitting my nutrition, because it's just part of who I am. So I think that's a big thing for me. But I think I just feel so much happier and healthier. I've It's given me the confidence to kind of focus on personal relationships. So I've definitely made the effort to look at the relationships that I've got in my life and what was serving me and what wasn't. The relationships that kind of I get out what I put in. I think I've experienced like a lot of one-sided relationships in the past where I feel like I'm putting a lot into friendships, whatever it might be. And I've made the conscious decision to not focus on those friendships. And that has led to some friendships ending, which has actually been a good thing for me. And then it's led to some new friendships where I'm just getting a lot more time with like-minded people that are actually adding something to my life. So I think that's been a huge game changer for me.
Why do you think that is? Like, why do you think not so much the friendships that you've outgrown, but the friendships that have now developed? Like, how has that happened? Where's that come from?
I think that's happened because I know my self-worth. I want to surround myself with people that I know are going to challenge me, are going to help me to improve my life. So I don't want comfortable friendships. I want people who are going to push me to achieve more. I want people around me who aren't going to be jealous of what I've achieved, people who will celebrate my success. And actually, a lot of the friendships that I have developed have been now through Level Up. And I think that says a lot because you are surrounded by like-minded women. There isn't that jealousy that you have in other friendship groups. Like I think we've all experienced it, where you start to make a bit of progress and your so-called friends don't even comment on how well you're doing, or if they do, they are maybe slightly jealous, and or they make comments to try and bring you down. And I think that's not the kind of friendships that I want in my life. I want people who are gonna like broaden my horizons almost. I think it's like you're the consequence of like the 5 people you spend the most time with. And I think I've really bought into that and focused on changing those 5 people that I spend the most time with now.
It's so important, isn't it? Because, like you said, like your environment dictates your results at the end of the day. And if you're surrounded by people that are constantly judging, moaning, comparing, whatever it might be, you just become that person. And when you're that person, you can't live a healthy life. You can't transform your body when you're like that. So the environment is crucial, like community is crucial. So with that being said, because community is a massive part at Level Up and one of the most important parts, for women looking in, it might seem a bit daunting. It might be like, oh my God, all these ladies know each other. They got on so well. What are they going to think of me? I'm not where they are. What would you say to any woman that is on the fence, whether it's for that reason or for any other reason, when they're on the fence about joining? What would your bit of advice be to them?
I would say to think about the long-term cost of not doing this. I think if you're on the fence about joining, you've obviously thought about joining for a reason. So you've obviously got things in your life that you're uncomfortable with. You obviously feel, in some way maybe unhealthy or unhappy in your body or in your current circumstances. And I think don't just think about the here and now, think about the long term. If you don't do this, where will you be in 10, 20 years' time? Will you have health conditions that you could have avoided if you'd lived a healthier lifestyle, will you still have these people in your life that are bringing you down and actually holding you back? I think
Mm.
that's the thing for me. And I think, a lot of people are worried about, the cost potentially, but I think the cost of not doing it is much bigger. If you have health issues in the future, you may end up having to, spend that money on trying to get treatment or whatever it might be. And actually, living a healthier lifestyle will benefit everyone, not just now, but well into your, future life. I think all of us want to be, happy and healthy when we're older, be able to, I don't know, pick up grandkids or look after your parents, whatever it might be there for your partner. And I think that is the real cost of not doing it. And so I would just encourage anyone on the fence to not just think about the here and now, not let your apprehensions get in the way, and just think about, longer term, where this will, help you to get later in life.
100%. I think that's so important, isn't it? Because we're also, especially like if we've never invested in ourselves or we're right at the start of our journey or we've tried other things, tried to do it on our own and never got results, there's always this voice in our head that is like, what if it doesn't work out again? What if I stay where I am? What if nothing changes? But on the flip side of that, what if everything changes? Like, what if literally your whole life totally transforms because you make one decision to throw yourself into something that feels a bit uncomfortable, but you can see there's evidence that it works and there's a guarantee that it will work for you as well if you do the work. Like, what if the best possible outcome comes from that?
Exactly. And I think actually it's a really important point, because when I first looked at joining in the April, I was worried about the cost. I kind of thought, it's just this person I see online. How do I know this is going to work? How do I know maybe these results are true? And I thought, actually, some of the results I saw, I thought, oh, I can never get that. And that was me telling myself that story. I was talking myself out of it before I even gave myself a chance. I was kind of saying, these girls, they're 10 years younger than me, or they've got XYZ. So I'm not going to be able to achieve what they can achieve. And actually, once I stopped telling those lies to myself and just put myself out there and put myself in a bit of an uncomfortable position, I then made the decision to join, and I literally haven't looked back since. Like, I don't think it's over exaggeration to say it's changed my life in every single way for the better. And like, my only regret is I didn't join sooner. And I think there'll be so many people in the same position as me that are on the fence, due to cost, due to some of the other things I've mentioned. But like, I genuinely wish I joined sooner. I wasted money then looking at other things because it was maybe slightly cheaper, or I thought I would get a slightly different service being in person, for example. But actually, I wasted my money on that, and I could have had my results 6 months sooner. And then I sometimes look back and think, well, where would I be now if I'd have joined 6 months sooner? So, like, I just think you just got to bite the bullet sometimes and do it. Like, I know it's scary. We're all scared when we first start, and I think it can be intimidating when you're joining a group of women, because we've all got such negative experiences of that. But Level Up isn't like that. Like, as soon as I joined, 5 or 6 people, put a welcome message on the group within 20 minutes. And I just then threw myself into everything, like the group chat, the in-person events, like the team, like walks and things like that. And before I knew it, I had my own friendships in that group. And yes, you're not going to be friends with all 50, 60 people, but you will get your own connections in time. And I think, don't let the fear of the unknown stop you from bettering yourself.